Welcome, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Shayla Darty, and I am the founder of SD Fitness and Wellness. And I have the honor and the privilege of working with women in all sorts of walks of life to use fitness as a platform to help them grow deeper in their walk with Christ and help them reach their goals that they have, whatever that looks like. So today I have a client who's joining me, and this is the first time I've ever done something like this before, maybe because my clients are usually much more private. And so they don't want to tell the world, what the Lord has done. And that's totally fine. But I'm excited that she's willing to talk about the hard things that she went through, because when you're going through your fitness journey, your health journey, just life in general, oftentimes people just don't talk about how hard it is. Like how hard it is to stay disciplined, how hard it is to wake up every day, get your workout in, how hard it is to choose your portion size as well, or choose something, choose this food over that food, whatever that looks like. And so I'm really excited that she's here to do that. And I just wanted to give a few stats on her journey. So we have been working together for a little over a year now. We first started working together just doing nutrition coaching, and she was doing, at the time I had a membership, my fitness membership, and she was doing one of the programs in that membership. And then in May of last year, late April, early May, we were talking and she sent me this picture and she said, "This would be goals, #goals." And I was like, let's do it. And she did it jokingly. And so I'll let her tell you her side of the story, and then I'll let her introduce herself.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ashley. My 38th birthday was Saturday, so just got to celebrate that. I've been married to my husband for almost 13 years. We have 3 kids. Our daughter is 10. We have 2 sons that are 8 and 5. My husband and I homeschool our kids. He has an ecological consulting business that he runs from home primarily. I help with some of the business side of that. And I'm also a veterinarian. And I've worked at a local clinic here for the last 12 years. So been doing that. And yes, Shayla is right. I started with her in some challenge groups. And then in January of last year, I was doing the program through the membership. I really enjoyed that one. And I made some progress on that. I was seeing some physical changes that were good. I was feeling stronger. I'd been going through the nutrition coaching with her. And her sister, Allie, who is on here, who kind of chatted a little bit earlier, she was selling Zaya workout clothing at that time. And, at that point, early on in my fitness journey, I have a planner that has like 30-day commitment things that you can track and challenge yourself. And it has a little spot for a reward. And so periodically I'd look through the Zaya workout clothing site to find something fun to reward myself with at the end of the month. So as I was looking through that, there was this one picture that every time I looked through the website caught my eye, and not because of the clothing, but this model was doing a pull-up. Yes, this picture.
Here's the picture for everyone to see. She sent me this picture.
Every time I saw this picture, I was like, oh, I want that. That's what I want. And it seemed so far from where I was and so unattainable that I thought it was funny, and I thought it'd be funny to send it to Shayla, like, look, this is what I really want. And so I sent it to her with really expecting it to be a joke because it seemed so far-fetched. And her response was, let's do it. And I simultaneously thought she was crazy, but just enough my kind of crazy, and challenged in a way that I just hadn't felt in a long time. And so I was like, well, I mean, if she thinks we can do it, let's do it. So that's when we started our one-on-one training.
Yes. So just to clarify, so it sounded like you said you turned 30. She turned 38.
38.
In case anyone else thought she said she turned 30, she's
38.
That does make a difference as people are as they're watching that 8 years.
Yes, 38.
Yeah. So we're going to start getting into some questions, but one thing I want to mention before we get started is as we go through this, there are going to be several things that I mention, especially when it comes to the work of Christ and just what he's done. But I don't want you to mistake me when I say this, that fitness alone can do nothing on this side of eternity except give you the body that you want. But the Holy Spirit working in your health and your fitness has the power to do anything and everything. And we're going to learn a little bit about that with Ashley and her story tonight, how it has the power to heal relationships, with food, mindset and thoughts, emotions and trauma. And the big thing is, on this side of eternity, what is the reason we're here for? It's for other people. And so it's for those relationships. So if this is something that can be used as a tool to help heal relationships or to help build relationships with new people who you can then see on the other side of eternity, then why wouldn't you want to use it? And so I just wanted to just put that in there as we're talking about this, just always keeping in the forefront of your mind that without Christ in this, her story wouldn't be the same. And so that is why it is today. And so I'm so excited to get into this. Let's get into the first question. So we gave you a little bit of the background. I am going to give you some stats. She's lost almost 20 pounds, just FYI, in the last year, and has been able to keep it off. She, just between her hips and her abdomen, her waist alone, over a foot in inches. And we were talking before we got on how in 2020, since 2020, it's actually been almost 18 inches just between her waist and her hips. And so just a few of the things that she's been able to do physically, but we're going to talk about the mindset and the heart and all of those things as well. So Ashley, what first drew you to first, I used to have challenge groups. For those of you who didn't know, they were 6-week challenge groups. So she found me then, and she's going to share a little bit of that story, how she found me. She was, we had a dog when we were in Lakeland, and he was a little aggressive. I was pregnant with my first son, and we weren't sure how he would react to having a baby. And she was our vet that she actually ended up helping us put our dog Ryder down because he had just gotten a little too aggressive and it wasn't safe to have a baby with him around. And so that is how we first met. And then from there, you take it.
Yes, it's a little awkward. So yes, I saw you guys, that appointment, that final appointment with you guys. You know, I met you and Chad. And as I was coming home that day, like the Lord just very clearly put on my heart that you were supposed to be in my life somehow. I had no idea what that was supposed to look like, how I was supposed to pursue that, because, you know, at this point, like, it's not like the vet appointments are going to continue. Like, we're not going to continue that way.
I didn't have the dog anymore.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, well, I'm not really sure, but it was a very, very clear message, to the point that I called my best friend and told her as much. I told my husband as much. I'm pretty sure they both thought I was absolutely insane. But it was what it was. There was no denying it. And so I looked you up on Facebook, because how
Technology world.
Somebody right now. So I looked you up on Facebook. I saw that you did fitness stuff. And then shortly after that, I think a challenge group opened up. And so I was like, well, all right, this is one way. So I signed up for that and started doing those.
So with that, she also, just as another, the Lord just bringing this together. And I truly believe the Lord always brings clients into my realm for a purpose and for a reason. And one of those, just we had a super tough time with our firstborn. And once I figured out who she was, I made the connection that she was the vet. We chatted on Facebook during that challenge group, and they brought us a meal just because things were just so tough with him. And it was so encouraging to talk to another mom about it, especially one that I didn't know too well. So I was like, well, she's not going to judge me. It's fine. Even if she does, it's fine. Like, whatever, it'll be fine. So before we started training one-on-one, so we did challenge groups. She started in 2019. I had challenge groups all through 2020. And then towards the end of 2020, October is when I launched my membership. And we had that all the way until October of 2021. And it was January of last year that she did one of my membership programs along with the nutrition training. So starting from there, how were you feeling even before the challenge groups, emotionally, mentally, physically, before all of that?
So, I mean, I would say I wasn't like in a crisis situation. I was functioning, I was living my life. I was taking care of 3 kids. I was married. but I wasn't thriving. Like I was tired a lot of the time, and a lot of that I just kind of attributed to my season in life and everything that was going on. But when I was tired, I didn't feel like doing a whole lot active, like it was a relief when my husband would take the kids out to play, because then I didn't have to, and I could just kind of hang out. And he still does that sometimes, but I was not really involved with that side of things very much. Mentally, emotionally, I was okay. I didn't feel fantastic. I just was kind of blah a lot of the time. I would say I was just kind of neutral. Just not thriving at that point.
In that, speak a little bit to, and if any of y'all have questions at any point in time, be sure to put that in the chat. I will monitor that. But speak into a little bit of the apathy. We're going to talk about that, or we're going to talk about it now. We're going to talk about it now.
We'll talk about it now. All right,
we're going to talk about that now.
Yeah. So I just had kind of reached a place of complacency, of apathy, that I just, I'd had 3 kids. I just figured that kind of how I was how it was going to be. And, I went through cycles, like we did some of those challenge groups prior to, and I'd go through cycles where, for those 6 weeks, I do really well. And then when that was done, I'd just kind of fall off and not do anything again, or I'd get partway into the challenge group and then I'd be sick for a couple of days, and so I'd just stop altogether. And so it was just kind of this roller coaster, and I just didn't stick with it. And it just kind of got to a point where I felt like, why bother? Like, this isn't like, it's not going to work. Like, this just is what it is. Why bother at this point? Like, so if I'm not going to get where I really want to be, then why?
Yeah. So like there's often, you'll find pendulums when it comes to fitness. There's the obsessive compulsive. They're obsessive about their body. They want this ripped physique. They want all of these things. Or there's the other side of the complacency, the apathy, where they're like, well, it is what it is. You know what? I have Jesus. I'll be fine. You know what? Body doesn't matter, which is not true. Let me tell you that right now. Your body does matter. So going from there, how are you feeling now? Emotionally, mentally, physically?
I feel great. Physically, I'm healthier than I've probably been since 2008. Mentally, emotionally, I feel fantastic. It's not that I don't have stressors in my life now. There's still a lot of stressful things that I deal with, but they hit me not as hard. Like, even just this weekend, I had to have a really difficult conversation with my parents because my mom's dealing with some medical stuff. And it was stressful kind of heading into that, not knowing what that was going to look like. But I had the conversation, and by that evening, I was fine. We had a plan in place, and I was okay. Whereas before, that would have really taken it out of me for a while. So I feel much better in that regard. I had some medical things that I was dealing with that have all but resolved at this point, especially over the last few months. And I haven't done anything, like I wasn't on medications or anything like that to treat any of them. And so it's really been just like my physical health that has improved that.
And to that point, I will clarify, I don't usually recommend supplements for any of my clients, but the only thing I do recommend is Juice Plus, because that's a whole food supplement, which just helps bridge the gap where we're just missing our nutrients. So Ashley was taking Juice Plus during this. And then towards the end of our time together, she did start taking something called creatine, which is a muscle builder, but that is because, or to help build muscles, that was because we had some very finite physical goals we were trying to reach, muscular looks. She had some aesthetic goals. Obviously, she sent me the picture of, let me just show this picture again of this girl. And she was like, can we make this happen? And just so you can, so this is what she sent me, and we were like, let's do it. This was May of last year, just a year ago. And as of last week, let me share this with you guys. This is where she is now. So she's far exceeded those aesthetic goals. So she did have, as we're in the middle of this, just to clarify, she did have more aesthetic goals than most of my clients do. I have 3 tiers of clients. I have nutrition clients, then I have general health and wellness clients, and then I have the transformation clients, which is what Ashley was. And that's a little bit more intense. It's more aggressive. And a lot of it does have more to do with muscular and aesthetics, but still in a very healthy way. So going from there, we have talked a little bit about Jesus already and faith. We talked about it through our training a lot. But I would love for you to share specifically how the Lord worked in your marriage throughout your training.
This is a big one,
Yeah.
that I didn't necessarily see coming. So to say that the Lord saved my marriage through training sounds a little extreme, but that's about true. It really was that significant. So my husband and I mean, we were okay. We just we weren't really friends. We were more kind of business partners and raising the kids and that sort of thing. And we worked well together, but that was kind of the extent of it. He'll tell you he didn't really like me at that point. It just wasn't a good situation. But through training, through just like the work I was doing, the work Christ was doing in me, the work you were doing with me, and walking through some of those things and learning and growing and becoming healthier mentally, emotionally, and being able to kind of have some hard conversations with him without it, kind of being devastating to me to walk through those conversations was really helpful. And me becoming attractive to him again was huge. And when I say that, I need to clarify, because I don't want that to be painted in the wrong light. So it wasn't like, it wasn't just a physical attraction. It wasn't just what I looked like. And he has made this very clear during this process that for him, it wasn't even so much how I looked as what it meant. So he has always been he's always taken very good care of himself and his health, and he loves to be active. He loves to be, outside doing things and that sort of thing. And he's always wanted a wife who would be able to do those things with him. And I was in a place physically where I couldn't do those. I didn't want to, and I couldn't. And so for him, the best part of this has been that now I can, and I want to, and I have the energy to, and it's fun, and we can play together and, just hang out and do those fun things. Certainly the physical side of it has not been of detriment to him, but it very much has been becoming kind of the friend that he has wanted, that I wasn't for a while.
And just kind of touch on a little bit. So it took him about how long to kind of realize this was real?
Yeah. So for about the first 6 months, I would say he was skeptical that this was going to continue, that I was actually going to stick with it, because, he had witnessed the kind of roller coaster for so many years, that, I wouldn't stick with something. So it took him about 6 months to realize that, yeah, okay, this is happening. She's sticking with it. And then about another 6 months after that of us kind of going through those hard conversations and getting to a good place again. And then the last 6 months has just been really great, like just growing in our friendship and just really things being really good between the two of us. Not to say that, we don't still have conflict and that type of thing. I got frustrated with him the other day and he got upset, but 10 minutes later we had talked about it and we were done and past it, which historically that would not have been the case. It would have been a whole night thing.
So would you say too that being able to do hard things and commit in your fitness and your nutrition the way that you have has helped you be able to have those hard conversations and do those hard things in not only your marriage but your family and in other areas?
Yes. And I think it allowed me to kind of look back and see kind of where I had come from, and ways that I had grown and concerns that he had had before that I just couldn't see in the moment, that, looking back, he was absolutely right about. I just couldn't see them at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So another aspect of our training together is last summer we kind of talked a lot about alcohol, and alcohol isn't prohibited on my plans. If you want to drink, you can have your drinks. But as far as that go, you enjoyed it. But during our training, you did end up stop drinking it, and you haven't had any for a while. So just explain about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's been going on a year now, probably 9 months or so that I haven't had anything. And it was really kind of multifactorial, and it was a process to kind of walk through. Initially, when I think I had really cut back was when I was on a nutritional cut, and like my macros had been cut back a lot. And so basically, like, I'd get to a meal, like dinner, and either I could have a drink or I could eat. So I chose to eat because I was going to be hungrier if I had a drink. So I chose to eat. And so as I kind of monitored myself through that, it occurred to me that if I'd have a single drink, I would start to crave alcohol. Like I'd see it in the fridge or whatever, it'd just be the evening and I'd want a drink for no particular reason, except that I liked the feeling that it gave me when I had it. But what was really interesting was, as I really thought about it, like it wasn't the effect of the alcohol that I liked, because it was like when I took the first sip, I just like had this like relaxation like come over me, which clearly was not the alcohol effect because I had just ingested it, like a sip of it. So it wasn't that. I did some research, and there are people who get a dopamine release from that, more so in addictive personalities than in others. And that's, I think, what I was feeling. And I certainly have a genetic predisposition to addiction. And there have certainly been alcohol issues in my family. And so for me, it was just a slippery slope that was just easier to avoid. And if I don't have alcohol, I don't crave it, I don't miss it. It is what it is. And for our kids, like I didn't need to have them seeing that.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the things last summer that we've talked about a lot more recently was just how, so let me just give a, overview of Ashley's nutrition plan. So because she's a tier 3 client, we have cycled through a lot of maintenance plans, which means she eats to her like activity level, which is just keeping her at the same weight. I'm not sure we've really even ever done a maintenance plan. We've done a recomposition plan, which is burning fat and building muscle, but staying at the same weight. So you're seeing results and you're seeing inches lost, but the scale is pretty much staying the same. So we've done that. We've done a cut, which is when she's in a calorie deficit, so she's actually losing weight. Then we've done a bulk where she actually gained a little bit of weight to build more muscle because she did have that aesthetic goal. And then we've gone back into a cut, we've gone back into a recomposition plan, and then back into another cut. And so, her nutrition plan is it's called macro cycling, where we've cycled through it to be able to get her to where she's going. And in that, so last summer, it was the bulk phase of it. And we've been talking about recently how there were often times she was drinking quite a bit without notifying me of it. So talk a little bit about that. Why wouldn't you want to notify me about that?
I mean, then I'd have to deal with you about it. Like you knew I had a drink, but it honestly, like until we were talking about it recently, I really hadn't thought a lot about it, like to the point that I didn't remember, like several days ago, I didn't remember if I had logged it or not. Like I had to go back to my planner and look and see if it was even in there, because I really didn't remember. And for the most part, it was not in there. And I think it was just something that subconsciously I didn't want to let go of. Like I wanted that freedom. Like I just wanted that for me. I didn't want to have to deal with that part of it. And I did not drink a lot, but it was like a social thing. Like we'd go over to a friend's house and, have a few drinks or whatever. And like the slightly rebellious side of me just was like,
she didn't need to know.
I don't need to tell her about it. We'll just say there was one. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So going from there, what has been, just a fun question real quick, what has been your favorite memory of us working together?
Is anything fair game here?
Yes.
All right. All right. Then if anything's fair game, I'm going with the workout video that you did. So, you put up videos for me of different exercises and how to do them correctly since we do our training virtually. And one of the videos that went up had not been edited, and Chad had filmed it, and he was on audio. I couldn't see him, but I could hear him being very flirtatious with you.
Am I blushing through the video?
A little bit. And yeah, so that was my favorite. Just because it was really fun to see, like, it felt like I had like a behind the scenes look into you and your marriage. And it was just really sweet to see and hear something that was totally innocent and beautiful, but I would not normally have gotten to see. And so that was a little bonus for me.
Yeah, she did let me know about that real quick, and I edited that video or changed it out to the edited version so that no one else
because it was
saw
for a challenge group. If it had just been for me, I would not have probably told you.
Thankfully, she got up at the butt crack of dawn to do those workouts that year, and so I was like, whew, nobody else saw this. Now, okay, let's talk about your family with this. So how has your kids and your family been involved? We already talked about how your husband has been involved, but how have they been involved, and what have they said about your commitment to your physical wellness?
So it's been fun to watch the process with them, and just them kind of getting used to, this is something that I do. So at first, it'd get to be afternoon, and I went through different cycles of what time of day I would work out, depending on how long the workouts were, what else was going on, what time it was getting light outside, that type of thing, because I exercise in our garage. And so sometimes I would get up like really early and they wouldn't even know it had happened. And other times I was doing it in the afternoons or when they were awake. And so there were times that early on, no, I don't want you to do your workout, stay in here with me, I don't want you to go work out, but I tell them, no, this is what I'm doing. And now they just know that that's what's going to happen. About 4:30 when we're done with our homeschool and stuff inside for the day, I'm going out to the garage, and for the most part, the rest of the family will come out, and my husband will either work out or he'll play with the kids, or they'll go swim, and everybody's just outside playing together during that time. And between sets and stuff, I can kind of pop out and say hi to them and stuff. So that has been fun. So that's been neat. They do comment sometimes on my physical appearance. They comment about how strong I am.
What did they say about your face?
Yeah, so that's been one of the interesting things is as I've asked them over time, kind of, what have you noticed? One of the things that consistently comes up is your face is more smiley, which is clearly not like a physical thing. I mean, it comes out physically, but it speaks to just kind of my mental and emotional health. But that is something that consistently comes up with them, is how smiley my face is now. My daughter also now loves hugging me, which is really fun. She's just like, you just feel so much better to hug. So she loves hugging me. But I will say with our daughter, especially, our boys too, but more so our daughter, so she's 10, she'll be 11 in October. She's involved in dance and stuff as well. And I know that we live in a culture that is very outward appearance focused. And I think she's our firstborn. She's a kind of a type A perfectionist to a T. She is very much like me. And I wanted to be very cautious with her, specifically for her to not view what I was doing as I'm doing this for outward appearances. That's not where my focus is. My focus is on like how much healthier I am, how much stronger I am, how much more I can do now because of it, which is kind of how they have seen it. So
that's awesome. So speaking of that, to get a little more practical, as far as family meals go, there was a question in the chat. Do you make separate meals? I'm not a proponent of that, by the way, but how did you deal with meals while you were going through the cycling? Did you all eat the same thing, or were you making separate things?
So no, I generally did not make separate things. A lot of the meals that we end up eating have like multiple components to them. And so sometimes I'd like put them on a board. So like I'd make, chicken and vegetables and, rice or something like that. And then everybody just took kind of what they wanted, because realistically, my 3 kids like different things anyway. So they're going to eat different portions, like different parts of the meal, which is fine, but they're all eating part of the same what's being offered.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband would have, like this much rice, and I'd have like this much rice. And then, but I might have, twice as much protein as him if I was in a place where I needed extra protein, that type of thing. Tacos, we'd make tacos, but then I'd also like have lettuce, so I could have like a taco salad. And so that type of thing. So just meals that were flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say I didn't do like a lot of one pot meals and stuff because I just couldn't change them to kind of meet my needs and theirs. But those don't really work well for us right now anyway, because they don't all like the same thing. So sheet pan meals were really helpful for us. Doing some like different boards, like just different options and stuff on them were helpful. But yeah, for the most part, I really did not make separate meals.
That's awesome. So kind of going with that same. So one of the things that I teach with my clients is the hand method. And so I do not have my clients track using a macro calculator. And this can often be frustrating for some clients, but the purpose is because you're not going to be tracking your macros in a macro calculator when you're 60. If you are, there's a, or if you're 70, really 70, like if you are, you shouldn't be, like, that's a waste of time for your life at 70 years old. So I teach them the hand method. So it's something that a tool that they have in their tool belt to be able to use lifelong to stay on a healthy course and to be able to stay on track with their weight loss and know what they're doing. So how did you feel about initially using the hand method?
So the aforementioned type A perfectionist that my daughter is exactly like me, really struggled with it because I really felt like I was not, like, there is no way I am being accurate enough. And I was just not comfortable because I really wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. And it was really hard for me to know if I was where I should be or not. So it was really hard for me at first. But I worked through that. You helped me through some of that, and trying to figure out just how to best do that. And then for meals, like if I had, like a one pot meal or something, that's where I'd really get tripped up because I'm like, I don't know how much is in here. Like it was easy when it was a piece of chicken and vegetables and like a scoop of rice, but when it was all together, I was like, I don't know. And to some extent, I just learned that was okay. Like it was one meal and I could take my best guess and that was good enough. So that was good. And I mean, I'm comfortable with it now. And I don't stress about it, but.
Yeah. So her whole weight loss journey, her whole physique journey has been used without using a macro calculator.
Yes. Yes.
Just in case anyone was wondering, that's me, like mind blown. Just to kind of go back to the boards, there was a question in the chat. Can you just specifically name, like when you said you would just do a board for dinner, what you mentioned, the chicken, rice, what were some other things that you did besides tacos, of course,
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I can take the same food and put it on my kids' plates and they're like, I don't want that. And if I put it on a big board in the middle of the table, they eat the whole thing. So I don't know what it is about the magic of a board, but I would do like a taco board. So there'd be like a big bowl of lettuce in the middle, and then there'd be, some tortillas and some chips and some guac and beans and, chicken or whatever the other options were, and some veggies and toppings. And I just throw it all on a board. Sometimes we'd just do like snacky Sundays. We did for a while where I'd really just take a bunch of like leftovers and snacky type stuff we had and throw it on the board and call it dinner. And they loved that. I'd do like a Greek one where there'd be like chicken or rice or lettuce or whatever, and everybody could make their own, wrap or salad or Greek bowl or whatever they want to do. So just different things like that.
So it's basically it's kind of like one pot meals, except for you're not cooking it all together. You're just separating the ingredients onto your table so that you can choose what you're having.
Yes.
And your kids can choose what they're having out of that too, which also probably helps eliminate some picky eating.
Yes.
Just as a side note.
Now
At
my
any
son has, actually I sent Shayla a picture the other day because my 5-year-old had grabbed my planner where I track my macros and stuff, and he had made his own box and like made like 20 lines in it. And I said, "Oh, is that your macros for today?" He goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "It must have been your carbs because that's
he
about all
was
the boy eats."
he was eating you out of house and home. And he's 4, right?
He's
Andrew,
5.
he's
Yeah,
5
he's
now.
5. Yeah.
At any point in time, did you feel deprived from your favorite foods?
For the most part, no. I would say I never felt deprived. I'd say the one time that I would get annoyed is when my husband, we'd be done eating and then it'd be like evening and my husband would start snacking on stuff and I couldn't. And that was just me, like that was on me. That was not on him. Like, you know, but I would feel annoyed. But otherwise, no, yeah, I really could eat whatever I wanted. It was just making decisions about where my priorities were. Or if I had something, just having less of it. But it was fine. And so I never felt deprived. And we've talked some about how my view of food has just changed completely. Like I just don't even, it's not that I don't care, because like this past weekend, one of our local bakeries is open on Saturdays. And so my birthday happened to be on a Saturday this year. And I was really excited because I was going to get to have that for breakfast. And so I very much looked forward to that. But like Friday night, we usually do pizza or some sort of takeout. The kids really wanted pizza. I really didn't, but pizza is easy to get. And so I got it and they ate it. And I just threw together a salad with some leftovers that we had. And that was fine. Where before, like I would have been really annoyed by the fact that, oh, I can't have what they're having. I just, I ate what was nutritious for me and what made me feel good. And we called it a night and it was easy because I didn't have to cook. So,
And then, but on Saturday, you got to have your favorites
oh yeah.
from the bakery.
Oh yeah.
So it was almost like a swap mentally, like I'm okay not having this tonight because it's not going to be as satisfying as what I'm about to have tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's what I often tell like you or my clients is like, swap what's going to mean most to you. Like if there's a food that really will like satisfy and make you feel good and make you feel happy, like the Lord made good food, like I'm not a proponent of deprivation because that leads to issues and eating disorders later on. And so it's just finding those swaps that like what's really worth it for you in the long run. Now, do you ever have like sugar or cake or something where you're like, man, I don't enjoy that anymore? Like, thanks, Shayla.
I don't think so.
No. Okay, good.
No, that's not true. There are some things I really enjoy, like pretty much any combination of chocolate and peanut butter, I will forever enjoy. I don't like things very sweet. So like soda, I can't drink anymore. It's just too sweet. I can't do it. So that I can't. And there are some baked goods that I've had like a piece of or something that I'm like, oh, it's too much. But for the things that we generally eat and kind of like, especially things that I bake, like I don't use a ton of sugar in them. Like nobody in my family really likes things super, super sweet. And so that stuff I still very much enjoy. But there are certain things like soda, I would say it's the big one that I cannot do it anymore.
So if there was something that you were to take a bite into, kind of going off script here, but take a bite into and you're like, it's there, you're kind of hungry. Like, are you going to eat it to like, cause you're like, man, well, I took a bite. It's fine enough. Like I'm gonna eat it. Or you're like, it's just not worth it. Like mentally, what are you thinking in that moment of like, I'm just not going to finish it. And that's okay. I'm going to eat something that I know my body feels good with.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not worth it, and that has happened, I'm like, yep, not having that. Like, it's just not worth it. Yeah, absolutely. I just don't. I either give it to somebody else in my family who will enjoy it, like my husband or one of my kids if they want it. But I feel no guilt about not eating something that I'm not really enjoying and isn't doing anything for me nutritionally.
Yeah. So at any point in time in your health and wellness journey, especially as women, whether you're income producing or you're a stay-at-home mom or you have kids, you don't have kids, sometimes women often feel guilty or selfish for spending time on themselves to take care of their bodies. Because, in society, the whole self-care, soul care, all that, finding the, where scripture and all of that kind of thing. But For you, how did you think through that and overcome that guilt, that mom guilt, or that, wow, like I'm taking away time from my kids to do this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So certainly it was more of a struggle at the beginning, when they weren't used to me taking the time to do that and that sort of thing. And so it was hard then. But I would say that kind of farther I got into it and the more I realized how much better I was for them, when I wasn't exercise, like just kind of in the day to day, like I was much more emotionally stable. I was physically able to do more with them and be more playful with them and that sort of thing. Both now and kind of setting myself up to be in a place where long term, I can be in a better place for them. And so I think for me, it was kind of a recognition of the benefits that they were actually gaining from that time that I was spending on it.
And for yourself, what about for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I look back at pictures, you and I'll kind of look at pictures sometimes. I look back at pictures from a couple of years ago and I'm like, I don't even know, like that was a completely different person than I am now. Like I just felt totally different and I'm so thankful. And I didn't even realize at the time that I wasn't feeling great. Like that's what's so interesting is that I didn't even recognize it at the time, but knowing now it's a huge difference.
Yeah, if only you knew now what,
Right.
if only you knew then what you know now, then you'd be much more willing, but
Yeah.
it's, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
We don't always, hindsight's 2020, people.
Yeah.
Get on it now. So through this whole process, we're going to talk about some tips you would give to other people. But just talking our relationship wise, there was definitely a trust that we had to have and that we had to build, and a respect. Just kind of talk about that a little bit, how that helped you also stay committed through the process.
Yeah, I mean, I think even at the very beginning when you said, let's do it, like if some random trainer had like popped up on Facebook and been like, hey, look, I could make you look like this. Yeah, right. You cannot. But I knew you and I knew kind of what we had done so far, and that I had, some success with that. And like, I trusted you that even if we couldn't get there, you would tell me that. And knowing that, ultimately you were going to do what was best for me, anyway, whether I wanted to hear it or not.
Also, this is a side note. I'm totally telling the story and I think you know where I'm going with this. So she was in her last cut. It was through the fall. Sister started getting grouchy. And honestly, my big tell when it comes to people in a deficit is if their body's really tired and they can't recover well, or if they're just really moody. I'm like, bye, like you're going on a maintenance. And so there was one day she was just super grumpy and I was like, we're going on a maintenance plan. Like you're too grumpy right now. This is not happening. And she did. She followed suit though.
It's true. I did. I listened. I'm pretty good at following rules usually.
And now so much better.
Yes, that's much better. I'm not grumpy.
No, it took a week or two and then she was fine. She balanced. Yeah. Her hormones were balancing.
Yeah.
But so trust me when I say that I'll let you,
yes.
She trusted that I would let her know if we needed to adjust or change things.
Yes. And you did.
What would be your top 3 pieces of advice for anyone currently in a fitness journey for physical or whole health?
So I would say number 1, set goals, set specific goals. Oh, I should have brought it out here. I had a planner and you and I had a goal call last January. And I wrote down kind of goals and the steps that we had initially and set. And I came across it the other day and almost every one of them we have met now. I say almost because the one that we have not is one that is absolutely on me. Shayla can do nothing about it. And that is how much sleep I'm getting.
She has children.
I'm not doing a good job.
I told her to turn her kids like Her doorknobs
doorknob
around.
around. Yeah, my 5-year-old has started this thing where he wants to come in the middle of he does come in, not wants to, he just comes walking through our door and comes over and says, Mommy, I just want to snuggle with you. And he's my last one. And I say, okay, because I'm not getting these days back. So snuggle it is. But that is the only goal that was not kind of accomplished at this point, which was really fun to see kind of looking back. But more specifically, set specific goals that are important to you, like not the goals that, kind of everybody says you should have, or culture says you should have, like they have to matter to you, or you're like, it's just not going to be worth it. And then don't be afraid to adjust those goals as you go through the process, as you learn more about yourself and kind of what you can do and what you want. Because certainly the goals I have now, and I'm continuing to adjust my goals. Even last week, I adjusted my goals. And so the goals I have now are not the goals I had 2 years ago. Like my current goals were nowhere on that goal call list. But, setting goals that are achievable and then continuing to modify those as needed and being willing
reflect
to
on them to see how you've progressed.
Yeah. So that would be one, is setting goals. 2 is trusting the process, because it's definitely a process. Like our culture, we just like people want results like yesterday. And if I had taken like day by day pictures or even week by week pictures or measurements or whatever, it would seem like I wasn't really doing a whole lot. When you expand that out to a month or 3 months or 6 months or a year, the difference is huge. But you don't see that in the day to day. And so it really is a process. And then 3 is take photos and measurements to track your progress. Because you really have to know that the scale does not necessarily tell the whole story. Do you have this picture?
Yeah.
You have the one of me?
Yep.
So I sent Shayla side by side at one point, and on the right, I am 6 pounds heavier than on the left.
So 6 pounds heavier here.
Yes.
Than here.
Yes. And like, certainly, I have more muscle in the picture on the right. But if the only thing I was going off of was the number on my scale, I would think I was like going the wrong direction and not succeeding at what I was trying to accomplish. And so having things other than the scale to track that progress is so important.
Agreed. And in the just when you talk about trusting the process too, what about trusting your body as well?
Yeah. So, I have learned things about my body and kind of what it needs when during this process. Like I know that kind of coming up on my cycle each month, I need a little bit more carbohydrate than I do the rest of the month, because my body needs it. It's a serotonin precursor, and I just need that. And so learning that and just, okay, well then, those few days I'm going to have a little extra carb and I'm going to feel a whole lot better because of it. And then like last week, like I was just really craving some protein. Like I found myself like eating cold shredded chicken breast out of the fridge. I was like, okay, look, if this sounds good, I clearly need some protein. So I was like, I'm just going to have some extra protein. Like it's fine. But certainly trusting my body in those things, but not to the extent that I'm letting it become an excuse.
That's good. That'll preach. I'm gonna have to circle back around to that one. What are your top 3 pieces of advice for anyone debating about starting a fitness journey? So they haven't quite started, or they've been in the yo-yo cycle. What would you say to them?
I would say number 1, and I'm conflicted about saying this because I heard it a million times and never I didn't get it. And that is how much effect your physical health has on your mental and emotional and spiritual health. Like it just is huge, and it's hard to understand that on the other side. Like it is hard to imagine how working on your physical health and investing in that is going to, produce this huge difference in every other aspect of your life. It just doesn't seem like that's the case, but it has been for me. So kind of taking all of that into account when you're deciding how you want to approach your health.
So knowing the physical and the mental and emotional side of it is well worth the journey.
Yes. 2, that you're worth the investment. So my husband, love him. He hates to spend money, like hates. to spend money, and which is great. Like, it is a blessing for our family most of the time. But he hates to spend money. And when this started, and I will preface this by saying he has been a guy who has always done a great job taking care of his own health on his own. And he, for years, you don't need a program. Why do you need a program? All you have to do is eat less and work out more and you'll be fine. Like, that's all you have to do. I don't understand. It's not that complicated. And so, but when I decided I wanted to do this, and he had seen what I had done, like, through the lean program and stuff, and had seen improvements. Actually, when my birthday was on Saturday, we don't do cards in our family. We don't do greeting cards. We each have like a little notebook thing that everybody writes in for us, so that, like, over the years we can look back and see what everybody's written previous years too. And so last May, in his thing that he had written to me, he was like, "You've made so much progress with your health. Like, you're doing a great job and stuff." And that was just right when we started the one-on-one. So we didn't even know what was coming. So at that point, he had seen the progress, and he said, "Well, if you're going to do it, then that's fine. Like, we can spend the money there." And he has not, it's been over a year now, and he has not made a negative comment about the money that we have spent on training. So it's certainly worth the investment. And then 3 is set yourself up for success. So for me, accountability was really important. So, like, knowing that if I was going to slack off on a workout, or I was just going to kind of fall off the wagon with my nutrition, I was going to hear about it from you. Not that there wasn't grace, not that there wasn't some freedom in that, if I, and there were days that, did I miss a couple workouts? Yeah. Were there days where I was sick and you were like, "No, like, your rest is more important than this workout." So, it didn't mean that, like, there was no flexibility or freedom there, but I was going to hear about it. And so it certainly provided the extra push to kind of do what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to real quick go back to, like, you are worth the investment. In there, it's often, it's more about the prioritizing it, right?
Yes.
So kind of talk on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I budget each month, so all that money is going to get assigned to something. The question is, what is that something? And for us, we decided that amount was worth investing in my fitness each month. And I mean, I would say, between it making me healthier for the kids, more fun for all of my family to be around, and saving my marriage, it's been a pretty good investment.
I would say so. That is awesome. Okay, just a few more questions. We've talked about most of these already. Let's just mentally, like, mentality wise, let's talk about just, did it ever feel negotiable? And we already kind of talked on that. So maybe more, let's talk on, so something, their exercise can be an obligation, which is when you're, like, begrudgingly doing it. But it could also be an opportunity where you can see, like, where you are. Well, you couldn't see it then, but where you are now, like, you can only envision. It was literally in your wildest dreams. Can I do this? And we're like, yeah, every step of the way, I'm like, we're doing it. You got this. Just talk about how that was just, the fitness journey for you was non-negotiable, and just the pendulum of obligation versus opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and to some extent, it's both. Even now, to some extent, it's both. Like, today, I really did not want to do my workout, but I did. And once I got started, like, it felt great. I pushed harder. Like, it was a great workout. And so part of it for me is just, like, making the commitment, and then, like, that's what I'm doing. Like, I can't just stop going to work when I don't feel like working. I'm not going to just stop working out because I don't feel like working out, because I see the reward that it provides. But there's also the opportunity of it now. Like, well, I wonder how much I could lift now. Like, yeah, I have certain, like, goals in terms of like, one of my goals was to deadlift my weight, which I've done, and one was to squat my weight, which I've done, and now there's just bench pressing my weight, which we have left. But the opportunity to kind of grow towards those goals, and just kind of the challenge that provides. Like, I thrive to some extent on challenge and pushing myself just a little bit further. And so that's been fun, but certainly it's a combination of both obligation and opportunity.
But in that, it's still, I made a commitment to myself before God, and first to God, like, this is how I'm going to treat my body, because I'm a living temple, walking around. I experience God in my body. So I'm going to, be healthy and whole for his kingdoms, to yourself and to your family. And it was just of course, I was your accountability in that too, to help you uphold that. But for you, even mentally, it was just a dialogue that you had to overcome in your mindset of, I just have to do it. I just have to wake up, or, at the end of the day, I just have to do it anyways.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So in that, this kind of ties into the next, what are some of the things spiritually you have learned, or what has he taught you? Just a few of the things he taught you over the last year that made the biggest impact.
Yeah. So I think at one point you had me go through like the series of videos that you had done on like mindset and stuff. And in one of those videos, and we've talked about this, in one of those videos, one of the things you said was that our bodies are our first reminder that we are not God. And like, I know I'm not God. I don't think I'm God, but that really stuck with me, because, there were certainly times during my workout that it was made blatantly clear that I was not God. But also through some of those times that I felt him the most, like I could not have continued doing what I was doing if not for God and his spirit in me, and just kind of pushing through those moments and growing through that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. And I think one of the other things that really kind of has stuck with me, that I've learned, is that God's plans are bigger than what I can see in any given moment. And as I look back, I see him in so many of these little details that I absolutely would not have, seen in the moment. Like when you were in the office, at my clinic, like, would I know? Like this was nowhere on my radar, but he did. And so seeing him in all these little things that I just would not have even dreamed of. Mm-hmm. But looking back so clearly, we're very laid out.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So just some fun. We're about to, if anyone else has questions, we're gonna close out in just a few minutes. As a fun question, what did you survive on during your macro cycling? So of course, with the macro cycling, and also in that, just kind of talk, just really briefly, highlights, lowlights, whatever, of your feelings mentality wise toward one cut going into, okay, you're losing weight, seeing that number on the scale and knowing now the number on the scale doesn't do anything, but then like not wanting to freak out about, oh my goodness, the weight changed, 0.2 pounds. I need to drop my calories, like not freaking out about it. But then also when we went in our bulk phase, how you handled, really what we did to handle your weight, because you gained a couple of pounds during that because we needed to gain muscle, how you handled that as well, and what you survived on food wise.
Yeah, so that is another place where mentally I certainly kind of changed over time, where initially it was like, okay, like it definitely came down to trusting you and what we were doing. And would
how many times did I guess what your weight would be? And did I guess it correctly?
Oh, at least 3, like to the 10th of a pound. Like, I bet by next Friday you'll be at this. And like, I'd literally take a picture of the scale and send it to her because it was so ridiculous that like she'd guess to the 10th of a pound.
It is.
Yes. So yes. So there were times that I was comfortable with it. There were times like initially in a cut, I really loved like watching it like drop. That's really fun. Then when it would plateau, that would be like, we also learned that like with my cycle, I gain, like 2 or 3 or 4 pounds, that then eventually comes off. But like in the moment, it's like, well, so I haven't done anything different, but now I know like, it is what it is. And then, 2 weeks, a week and a half later, it's going to drop real quick again. Mm-hmm. As that comes off and I see evidence of, more weight loss on top of it. So there was that. It was a mindset shift. There were a couple times I think that I threatened to start a cut with or without you.
She did not. She did not.
I didn't do it, but I did threaten it.
And during your bulk, we ended up using, because the scale particularly was stressing you out, we ended up using that as a fast, legitimately.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
fasted from the
Yeah,
scale.
you banned me from the scale.
I did. I banned her from the scale for a little while so that, and anytime, the purpose was anytime she thought about weighing herself, she was supposed to take it to the Lord. I think for the most part you did.
After complaining to you, I did.
Yeah. She would complain and then she would take it to the Lord. And you know, he dealt with her there.
Yes, he did. And now it's not a stressful thing for me anymore. But you know, for me, like I got to the point where I came to the realization that it's all kind of phases. So this is kind of true in my motherhood as well. So, you know, being a mom for the last 10, 11 years, like if I've learned nothing else, it's that almost everything with kids comes in phases. Like there's hard times, there's really great times, but almost everything is a phase, and it's going to end and it's going to change and you're going to be on to something different. And the same is true, you know, with the cycling and stuff that we did with the whole fitness thing. Like there were hard times, there were really fun times, but it was all going to change again. And so it was just kind of getting through those times till you're on to the next thing.
And what were some of the foods you survived on besides cold chicken that you were shoving in your mouth last week?
So number one, cottage cheese. Like I probably ate cottage cheese.
She should have taken stock.
I should have taken stock. I would buy like 4 to 6 tubs of cottage cheese at a time. But I found all sorts of creative ways to use cottage cheese. You can whip cottage cheese in a food processor with like vanilla extract or chocolate. Like it's almost like a cheesecake when you do that, which is real good. I'd put it in with my spaghetti, so then it was like a lasagna. I'd have it, you know, with fruit and stuff. And then I had lasagna, or I had cottage cheese on multiple occasions, many days.
Mostly whipped pumpkin cottage cheese. I would see that often.
Awesome.
In her food log, whipped pumpkin cottage cheese, probably once a day, every day, sometimes twice a day for many months.
It was a breakfast and a dessert. But yes, it was great. So that, egg whites, but chicken. They had to be mixed with something. I can't just do egg whites. Chicken, yeah. But cottage cheese, definitely. Greek yogurt, but definitely cottage cheese at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm. So just to end today, tonight, just want to thank everyone for coming. But as we end, just talk about like 1 year. You've done this for 1 year. You did on this earth for 38. In the grand scheme of your life, what was 1 year?
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, especially given, you know, like it was a time commitment and it was a commitment, but it was not all consuming for a year at all. And I think there was so much growth in that year that it was well worth it.
So how do you get over that roadblock? Starting in a fitness journey, thinking the overwhelmingness to get out of that yo-yo cycle like you did, to think like, what does it matter? It's just a year. Like that mindset, how did you move past that?
I don't know that I ever thought of it as a year, because I might have been overwhelmed. I thought of it as this is the next step, and I'm going to make it to that step, and then I'm going to reevaluate and go from there. Which is what we did. You know, we kind of changed the approach a few times, depending on kind of what the current goals were. But it was for me, it was more of I'm committing to this part. And then when I get to that, I'll decide where I'm going from there, because truly, like, the further I got in it, the more motivated I was to continue. And so it became very easy to just continue. It wasn't really a question of if I was going to, it was what that was going to look like.
And that initial motivation created the discipline you needed to carry it out.
Yeah. Because
motivation is fleeting.
Yes, for sure.
Like today, you were not motivated to do your workout.
I was not.
And her son thought it was mean that I told her to keep doing it.
He did. He was like, "Mommy, I want you to come outside with me." I said, "Okay, I just have to tell Miss Shayla I don't want to do my workout today." And he said, "Did she say okay?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, that is very not nice of her."
His kids love me. his
Yeah.
kids, your kids love me. He loves me. They did a rendition of We Don't Talk About Bruno, except for it's We Don't Talk About Shayla, Miss Shayla. And it is the
Yep.
best. It was the highlight of my year. And it's
That was pretty awesome.
probably halfway through the year, and it's still the highlight
That's
of my
right.
year. It is the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing your story. And
You're welcome.
I hope y'all just glean some truth too, and also are encouraged in your own journeys, either wherever you are right now or going forward, because it is without the Holy Spirit in it, what's the point? Besides maybe a little bit longer life and a rocking body, this ultimate satisfaction is going to be there in Christ and in the Spirit throughout this journey and what he's going to teach you in it. And so I thank y'all so much.